worked long hours in the field, Frederick had. Hi, welcome. Let me turn this way. Let's see. Does it flip? Oh, there we go. I did it. Welcome, replay viewers. Welcome, live viewers. This is Janice Temple with World Black History on Periscope. I'm broadcasting. Hi, Eugene. Eugenio Soto, welcome. Broadcasting. Hey, Cheryl. Welcome. Welcome. Broadcasting on Janice Temple because that's where Periscope producer is. But welcome. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. So please do share this out and invite. Let me try and read the comments. So today is Valentine's Day. It is also Frederick Douglass's birthday. And Frederick Douglass was born in the month of February. Hi, I hope all is well. Yes, it is, Cheryl. I hope all is well with you, too. It's good to have you on. Good to see you. So, thanks for sharing, Cheryl. So today is Valentine's Day. It is also Frederick Douglass's birthday. And so I just wanted to recognize Frederick Douglass, it being the month, Black History Month, and we're still celebrating. So I just wanted to share a little bit of background on Frederick Douglass. So he was an abolitionist. He was born Frederick Bailey, a slave in February 1818 on Holmes Hill Farm near the town of Easton, Maryland, Eastern Shore. And the farm was part of an estate owned by Aaron Anthony. He also managed plantations of Edward Lloyd, one of the wealthiest men in Maryland. And the main Lloyd plantation was near the eastern side of Chesapeake Bay, 12 miles from Holmes Hill Farm, in a home Anthony had built near the Lloyd Mansion. So that's where Frederick's first master lived. Frederick's mother, Harriet Bailey, worked the cornfield surrounding Holmes Hill. Hola, ¿qué tal? So we're celebrating Valentine's Day, and we are celebrating Frederick Douglass's birthday as well. And so I'm just giving you a little bit of background on Frederick Douglass. So his real name, his birth name was Frederick Bailey. Frederick Bailey. And he changed it after he wrote his autobiography to escape the slave catchers. That's when he changed it to Frederick Douglass. So he wrote his autobiography in 1845. And so that's when he changed his name. I believe he fled to England. So Frederick's mother, Harriet Bailey, worked the cornfield surrounding the Holmes Hill. He knew little of his father except that the man was white. As a child, he had heard rumors that the master, Aaron Anthony, had sired him. Sired means that, oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. Periscope team, thank you. So sired means basically that he fathered him. So he heard rumors that Aaron Anthony was his father. So because Harriet Bailey was required to work long hours in the field, Frederick had been sent to live with his grandmother, Betsy Bailey. Betsy Bailey lived in a cabin a short distance from the Holmes Hill farm. Her job was to look after Harriet's children until they were old enough to work. So Frederick's mother visited him when she could, but he only had a hazy memory of her. So Frederick Douglass probably saw his mother maybe 3 times in his life. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Matt Man, your first day on Periscope. So today for those of you who are just joining, I'm Janice Temple with World Black History on Periscope, and we're celebrating Valentine's Day, and we're also celebrating Frederick Douglass's birthday. And we're doing that because Frederick Douglass chose Valentine's Day as his birthday. It's Black History Month, so we're sharing a little bit about Frederick Douglass, who was an abolitionist. He only saw his mother 3 times in his life because he was sent to live on another farm, and she called him Valentine. And this story is not printed anywhere. It was told to me by Kenneth B. Morris Jr., who is a direct descendant of Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. So he shared the story. So it's a first-hand account, which is really, really awesome. A little known fact, that is why he chose February 14th for his birthday. That is what Frederick Douglass did. So we are honoring Frederick Douglass, who's an abolitionist, for Black History Month. Welcome, Ashra, your first day on Periscope. So he saw his mother 3 times in life. She called him Valentine on the 3 occasions that he saw her. He did not live with her. He went to work in the fields at another location. And so she would have to walk through the night miles to see him, and it was not an easy task. So that is why he only saw his mother 3 times in life. So he only has very, very hazy memories of her. He spent his childhood playing in the woods near his grandmother's cabin. He did not think of himself as a slave during those years. Only gradually did Frederick learn about a person, his grandmother, who would refer as Old Master. And when she spoke of Old Master, it was with a certain fear. At age 6, Frederick's grandmother had told him that they were taking a long journey. They set out westward with Frederick clinging to his grandmother's skirt. With fear and uncertainty, they had approached a large, elegant home, the Lloyd plantation, where several children were playing on the grounds. Betsy Bailey pointed out 3 children, which were his brother Perry, his sister Sarah, and Eliza. His grandmother had told him to join his siblings, and he did so reluctantly. After a while, one of the children yelled out to Frederick that his grandmother was gone. Frederick fell to the ground and wept. He was about to learn the harsh realities of the slave system. The slave children of Aaron Anthony were fed cornmeal mush that was placed in a trough to which they were called. Frederick later wrote, like so many pigs, the children made homemade spoons from oyster shells to eat with and competed with each other for every last bite of food. The only clothing that they had were provided one was a linen shirt which hung to their knees. The children were provided no beds or warm blankets. On cold winter nights, they would huddle together in the kitchen of the Anthony house to keep each other warm. Hi, welcome, Bob. Hi, welcome, Loving Smile, your first day on Periscope. So we are celebrating today Frederick Douglass. He was an abolitionist, born in Maryland, and he chose February 14th as his birthday, which is Valentine's Day, because his mother called him Valentine. Welcome, Shashank. Welcome. So we're reading a little bit of Douglass's background. Welcome, RER 15. So one night, Frederick was wakened by a woman's screams. He peered through a crack in the wall of the kitchen, only to see Aaron Anthony lashing the bare back of a woman who was his aunt, Hester Bailey. Frederick was terrified, but forced himself to watch the entire ordeal. This would not be the first whipping he would see. Occasionally, he himself would be the victim. He would learn that Aaron Anthony would brutally beat his slaves if they did not obey orders quickly enough. Frederick's mother was rarely able to visit her children due to the distance between the Holmes Hill farm and the Lloyd plantation. Frederick last saw his mother when he was 7 years old. He remembered his mother giving a severe scolding to the household cook, who disliked Frederick and gave him very little food. A few months after this visit, Harriet Bailey died. but Frederick did not learn of this until much later. So Frederick Douglass was born Frederick Bailey. He later took the name Douglass after he wrote his autobiography in 1845, and he changed his name to Douglass. So we're talking about the Bailey family. That is the name that he was born with. Because Frederick had a natural charm that many people found engaging, he was chosen to be the companion of Daniel Lloyd, the youngest son of the plantation owner. Frederick's chief friend and protector was Lucretia Auld, Aaron Anthony's daughter, who was recently married to a ship's captain named Thomas Auld. One day in 1826, Lucretia told Frederick that he was being sent to live with her brother-in-law, Hugh Auld, who managed a shipbuilding firm in Baltimore, Maryland. Thanks for sharing and inviting, Clear Sky. She told him Frederick Douglass lives in Washington, D.C. and owns the Redskins. Frederick Douglass. Yes, his memory does live on, but he does not own the Redskins. Not this particular Frederick Douglass. This Frederick Douglass was born in 1818 and died in 1895. But his memory does live on. But thank you for that. So he was sent to Baltimore to work in the shipbuilding. She told them that if he scrubbed himself clean, she would give him a pair of pants to wear to Baltimore. Frederick was elated at this chance to escape the life of a field hand. He cleaned himself up, received his first pair of pants. Within 3 days, he was on his way to Baltimore. Upon Frederick's arrival at the Auld home, his only duties were to run errands and care for Auld's infant son, Tommy. Frederick enjoyed the work and grew to love the child. Sophia Auld was a religious woman and frequently read aloud from the Bible. Frederick asked his mistress to teach him to read, and she readily consented. He soon learned the alphabet and a few simple words. Sophia Auld was very excited about Frederick's progress and told her husband what she had done. Hugh Auld became furious at this because it was unlawful to teach a slave to read. Hugh Auld believed that if a slave knew how to read and write, that it would make him unfit for a slave. A slave that could read and write could no longer obey his master without question or thought, or even worse, could forge papers that said he was free and thus escape to a northern state where slavery was outlawed. Yeah, isn't that something, John? Hugh Auld then instructed Sophia to stop the lessons at once. Frederick learned from Hugh Auld's outburst that if learning how to read and write was his pathway to freedom, then gaining his knowledge was to become his goal. Frederick gained command of the alphabet on his own and made friends with poor white children he met on errands and used them as teachers. He paid for his reading lessons with pieces of bread. At home, Frederick read parts of books and newspapers when he could. Hi, how are you doing? Welcome. But he had to constantly be on guard against his mistress. Thank you, Desiree. Sophia Auld screamed whenever she caught Frederick reading. Sophia Auld's attitude toward Frederick had changed. She no longer regarded him as any other child, but as a piece of property. However, Frederick gradually learned to read and write. With little money he had earned doing errands, he bought a copy of the Columbian Orator, a collection of speeches and essays dealing with liberty, democracy, and courage. Isn't that interesting? So he taught himself the alphabet. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for following me. So today we're celebrating Frederick Douglass's birthday, which is February 14th. He chose that because his mother called him Valentine. He was born in 1818. He didn't know the exact date of his birth. He saw his mother maybe 3 times, and during those 3 times she called him Valentine. So he chose February 14th as his birthday. So this is in recognition of Valentine's Day and Frederick Douglass for Black History Month. So Frederick was greatly affected by the speeches on freedom in the Columbian Orator, and so began reading local newspapers and began to learn about abolitionists. Not quite 13 years old, but enlightened with new ideas that both tormented and inspired him. Frederick began to detest slavery. His dreams of emancipation were encouraged by the example of other blacks in Baltimore, most of whom were free. But new laws passed by Southern state legislators made it increasingly difficult for owners to free their slaves. During this time, Aaron Anthony died, and his property went to his two sons and his daughter, Lucretia Auld. Frederick remained a part of the Anthony estate and was sent back to the Lloyd plantation to be a part of the division of property. Frederick was chosen by Thomas and Lucretia Auld and sent back to Hugh and Sophia Auld in Baltimore. Couldn't imagine seeing my mother only 3 times. I know, isn't that heartbreaking? Yeah, so he lived with his grandmother for a while, and then she took him back to labor in the fields. I think at age 6 or 7, it said. So yeah, that was very, very difficult. Seeing his family being divided up increased his hatred of slavery. However, he was hurt the most that his grandmother, considered too old for any work, thanks for sharing, Jewel, was evicted from her cabin and sent in the woods to die. Oh my God. Seeing his family being divided up increased his hatred of slavery. However, he was hurt the most that his grandmother, considered too old for work, was evicted from her cabin and sent in the woods to die. Within a year of Frederick's return to Baltimore, Lucretia Auld died. I know, isn't that horrible? The two Auld brothers then got into a dispute, and Thomas wrote to Hugh and demanded the return of his late wife's property, which included Frederick. Frederick was sorry to leave Baltimore because he had recently become a teacher to a group of other young blacks. In addition, a black preacher named Charles Lawson had taken Frederick under his wing and adopted him as his spiritual son in March of 1833. Excuse me. The 15-year-old Frederick was sent to live at Thomas Auld's new farm near the town of St. Michael's, a few miles from the Lloyd plantation. Frederick was again put to work as a field hand and extremely unhappy about his situation. Thomas Auld starved his slaves, and they had to steal food from neighboring farms to survive. Frederick received many beatings and saw worse ones given to others. He then organized a Sunday religious service for the slaves, which met in nearby St. Michael's. The services were soon stopped by a mob led by Thomas Auld. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's amazing information to hear the history. I mean, we hear a lot about Frederick Douglass in his later years, but not much about his early years. So the services were soon stopped by a mob led by Thomas Auld. Thomas Auld had found Frederick especially difficult to control, so he decided to have someone tame his unruly slave. In January 1834, Frederick was sent to work for Edward Covey, a poor farmer who had gained a reputation around St. Michael's for being an expert slave breaker. Frederick was not too displeased with this arrangement because Covey fed his slaves better than Auld did. The slaves on Covey's farm worked from dawn until after nightfall, plowing, hoeing, and picking corn. Although the men were given plenty of food, they had little time allotted to eat before they were sent back to work. Covey hid in bushes and spied on the slaves as they worked. If he caught one of them resting, he would beat him with thick branches. After being on the farm for 1 week, Frederick was given a serious beating for letting an oxen team run wild. During the months to follow, he was continually whipped until he began to feel that he was broken. On one hot August afternoon, his strength failed him, and he collapsed in the field. Covey kicked and beat Frederick to no avail and finally walked away in disgust. Frederick mustered the strength to get up and walk to the Auld farm, where he pleaded with his master to let him stay. Auld had little sympathy for him and sent him back to Covey. Beaten down as Frederick was, he found the strength to rebel when Covey began tying him to a post in preparation for a whipping. At that moment, from whence came the spirit, I don't know. I resolved to fight, Frederick wrote. I seized Covey hard by the throat, and as I did so, I rose. Covey and Frederick fought for almost 2 hours until Covey finally gave up, telling Frederick that his beating would have been less severe had he not resisted. The truth was, said Frederick, that he had not whipped me at all. Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for sharing, Lizzie Biddy. So he was lucky legally. A slave could be killed for resisting his master, but Covey had a reputation to protect and did not want it known that he could not control a 16-year-old boy. So we're going to stop right there. Oh, it's been almost a half an hour. We're going to stop. So I thank you guys. I will continue tomorrow about this same time with more about the early years of Frederick Douglass. There's quite a bit of reading. Sometimes it's hard to listen to this. I can't imagine what they went through. I agree with you. I agree with you. So I am going to scope down. Yes, it is. It's amazing. So I'm going to stop the scope. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 2. Yes. But it made him such a strong man. So we will go on with more of that tomorrow. So ciao, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday to Frederick Douglass. It was good? Awesome. Ciao.